So we just watched the newest episode of Yashahime. We now are pretty sure that what's her name, Moroha, or not Moroha, Setsuna and Towa have spiritual powers. It's an interesting turn of events.
I mean, Rin was being trained by Kaede at the end, which does suggest that, and like I remember people talking about that every now and then, that Rin sort of was showing signs of having spiritual powers. But then I was just never sure, like, because she had died so many times, that whether or not that was related to that or not.
Oh, that's gonna be fun. And we also find out that Moroha is able to channel her grandfather's demonic power by putting on lipstick. So basically, all of Inuyasha's problems could have been solved, and his hopes could have been realized if he had just cross-dressed. That is the story.
I just, he'd been carrying that lipstick around his entire life. That was one of the few things he had of his mom, and he didn't even know about the power boost it gave him?
Nope. And the fact that that Kikyo actually did wear it, but she got no power boost from it.
Because it was tied to his dad's bloodline. Was his father expecting a granddaughter? Because it does nothing for humans whatsoever. It just activates his demon memories in his children and grandchildren.
Yep.
And Inuyasha never put on the lipstick, so...
And he never would have.
So toxic masculinity prevented Inuyasha from reaching his full potential.
Yeah.
So Moroku went and checked. So the other thing was Moroku went and checked up on Setsuna at least once.
Mm-hmm. And taught her a chant, which means he somehow knew that she was able to bring power into said chant.
So again, I'm pretty sure the kids were being separated for their own safety.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whatever's going on, it's big enough that they thought the kids needed to...
Not be together. And Miyoga has told Moroha who her parents are. He knows. He just doesn't know that about Shishomaru's kids because he's oblivious to everyone else.
Yeah, but he was more emotionally attached to Inuyasha anyway, and by extension Moroha. But the way that they were talking, she called him Grandpa Miyoga in a very familiar type way. So I mean, it looks like Miyoga's been part of her life for a long, long time.
And he has run away from her. So she's like, are you going to run away again? He's like, most likely. She's like, yeah, most likely. So
they're close. So again, it looks like Miyoga has been with her life for most of her life.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Now the question is, what happened
to everybody? It's interesting. See, I thought that the lipstick was getting a power up by the red pearl. But it looks like the lipstick's powerful in and of itself, and she's just keeping the red pearl in the lipstick for the aesthetic? ?
She knows that the pearls are valuable, and she's drawn to this pearl for some reason.
And she doesn't want to get rid of it because that's the next part of it, because she likes money.
Mm-hmm.
She's not using it to power herself up.
She's had a very hard childhood because usually, especially in shows like this, whenever someone becomes that money hungry, but also kind of leans more towards being chaotic good sometimes, they were deprived of something growing up. They were growing up poor or anything else.
She's wearing rags.
Yeah.
She's wearing rags, and she seems to have no family but Miyoga. She was deprived of a lot.
Yeah. She had a rough upbringing, which is why she's now very morally gray, like Inuyasha. She's basically Inuyasha at the beginning of the series, but with a brain.
No. she doesn't have a. She's not any smart. I don't think she's any smarter than him. I think she's less jaded than him for whatever reason. But then again, Inuyasha literally had gotten killed by his fiance from his perspective the day before. So
True.
We meet him in a pretty bad because he doesn't even realize time has passed when he wakes up.
No. And I am so sick of them comparing Kagome and Kikyo. Kagome has her own right and reputation. As much as I sympathize with Kikyo and I love Kikyo, Kagome is an awesome priestess just by herself without Kikyo's influence.
Yeah, but I don't know. Yes, but from the perspective of this, Kikyo is 3-ish generations back, so she's still within everybody's local memory, and she was extremely famous. So when they say she's the daughter of the reincarnation of this celebrity priestess that was considered the most powerful priestess, I think it's more that Kagome didn't have the time that Kikyo had to build a name for herself. So Kagome would never have become quite as famous as Kikyo did. Kagome also probably didn't really want to be as famous as Kikyo was. No. Kikyo didn't want to be as famous as Kikyo was.
That's fair.
So I think that it's more to, I think that Miyoga wasn't trying to diminish Kagome's rights. I think that Kagome just literally never made a name for herself like Kikyo had, in that regard anyway. Or that was my takeaway on it. And every time that someone compares the two of them, it's also that I just feel like Kagome would have made a name for herself if she wanted to, but even Kikyo hated the pedestal she was put on. She was known everywhere, she was paraded around everywhere, but she hated how well known she was, and I don't think Kagome would have wanted that whatsoever, especially
Kagome didn't like being a celebrity.
Yeah. So she never would, no one would have really, Kagome is extremely powerful, but she never would have sought out that life of being famous and known for herself. While as Kikyo would have legitimately Kikyo's name would have legitimately put the fear of
God into people's blood.
Into the gods, the fear of God into the demon's blood. Yeah. Anyway. Maruha must have had some priestess training herself as well, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because and that's the interesting thing about her is she legitimately seems to know how to use priestessy stuff. Like that, putting the salt in her mouth and spitting it at it, that was a well thought out attack maneuver. Which is fascinating because that means that somebody legitimately must have trained her on how to use the stuff. Because it's not like that you would... again, take Rin, who we're definitely assuming now has had priestess abilities herself, didn't naturally know how to use it whatsoever. So it's not like and Kagome didn't as well. Kagome didn't naturally know how to use any of her priestess abilities. She had to be taught that, which means Maruha had some sort of training.
And then with Setsuna and Towa, with them basically purifying the demon at the end.
That was interesting.
When I saw that, my first thought was going back to the Tetseiga and the fact that Shishomaru was giving the power to heal. What if that power became hereditary?
Yeah.
And he passed it down to his children along with Ren's supposed purifying abilities. It would make sense because Ren is so connected to life and death because she's been brought back twice. And then Shishomaru is also connected to life and death with his Tetseiga.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that his kids would have also control over life and death.
It also looks like it's going to be leaning more into the spiritual element of Inuyasha instead of the demonic element of Inuyasha, which is going to be really, really interesting because we did have high spiritual energy characters in Inuyasha with Kagome and Moroku, but we seem to go towards the physical, really strong characteristics of Sango and Inuyasha.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with this one, we're going to be looking at, with their fighting technique is going to be much more based upon the spiritual side of it, which is going to be really, really interesting. Because some of my favorite parts of the manga and the anime were some of the Kikyo backstories. Because those were so interesting. Because it was so different from the way that, I mean, Inuyasha hulks out on everything and kills everything just with brute strength. But Kikyo fought in a very, very different manner. And I'm wondering... And it's, especially we started off with like talking to the spirit of the tree, which is not a demon, it's like a god thingy.
It's a spirit.
It's a spirit. So we're looking at the spiritual side of it as opposed to the yokai powerhouse side of it, which is really, really going to be really, really interesting. It's going to make it a very different power sets. And I wonder if that's why Setsuna's really not fighting that well, is I wonder if she's using the wrong side of her powers and she's going to have to learn how to use...
I feel like Setsuna got most of the purifying abilities and Towa got most of the demonic side of the abilities. Because Towa is more...
Yeah.
Even though Towa has the mindset of a priestess, Setsuna has the power set of a priestess.
Oh, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be interesting. Yeah, you're right.
Because Towa... continuously she's like, well, why don't we just talk to them? We can work it out, apologize, be nice. But Setsuna is very much, you can't be nice to anyone, otherwise you'll be taken advantage of. You need to grow up. But
and then she tries to kill things and she's not really that powerful.
Yeah.
Like I'm really because I don't feel like Setsuna's holding back, but she really hasn't. Yeah, she really doesn't seem to be that powerful.
No.
Like, untrained Towa seems to be more powerful, physically powerful than she is.
Yeah. And all Towa's done is martial arts.
Human martial arts in Tokyo.
Yeah.
With a violinist mother, so, like, I don't think she got to do the super interesting stuff. Towa's got sister complex.
Very strong sister complex. She's not getting a love interest.
I think I might have hated Toa's character if she had been male.
Yeah.
She's just hilarious enough that I'm laughing at her right now, but I think the combination of we need to love each other and apologize with a sister complex might have made me hate her.
Yes, it would have. That is your worst character next to the pervert.
What are you talking about? That character usually is the pervert.
Yeah. Because she's not.
We don't know that yet.
She's not a pervert, but
we don't know that yet.
That being said, in Black Clover, there's a character who has mirror abilities, and he has a very strong sister complex, and he basically wants to marry his sister, who's like 8. And he like has a nosebleed every time he looks at her. It's bad. However, you take away the fact that he wants to marry his little sister, him and Towa are the exact same person. Except one is more jaded.
I don't like sister complexes.
No, they're not.
I don't like sister complexes.
One of our characters has a sister complex.
Again, don't want to know.
You watch No Game, No Life.
Again, I don't want to know.
Anyway, I don't like sister complexes. I'm hoping Towa...
Nope,
I hope
it's her
Towa
character.
goes down.
It's her
I
character.
need it to go down.
It won't.
I like her right now. I don't want to hate her.
She has a sister complex. She doesn't want to marry her sister. But she definitely doesn't want to...
It hasn't come up in conversation yet.
It hasn't. No. However, I don't think she wants to marry her sister. However, if her sister ever does get married, she will be the plus one. The live-in person who refuses to leave.
Anyway, anyway, yeah, I don't like sister complexes. It's my least favorite anime trope. And there are so many anime tropes to dislike.
And we find out Moroha's best friends are basically loan sharks that she owes money to.
Yeah. Little Raccoon is seeming more boyish now.
Little Raccoon is a boy.
Did we find that out for sure yet, or
Definitely. That
okay?
little raccoon is a boy.
Precious.
I'm still curious as to who the 5th member of their squad is gonna be.
It's gonna Shippo. It'll be Shippo.
That Shippo?
Yeah, that Shippo, the redheaded in the back with the
Possibly Tetsaiga on his back.
possibly Tetsaiga on his back.
Uh,
I feel like that's Shippo. Or they've got to put Shippo in somewhere. Okay, so the rainbow pearls.
there are 8 of them.
There are 8 of them. They're scattered.
Moroha wants to collect them for some reason.
Moroha wants to collect them for some reason, but
we don't know that reason. She wants...
And she's not... I don't know that she knows the reason she wants to collect them. Because she's not, like, trying to talk the girls into giving them to her. She's not saying, like, well, you didn't even know you had these. Why don't you give them to me?
Yeah.
She just seems to want them.
It feels like a compulsion. Almost. For her. Because she didn't necessarily think twice before taking the red pearl.
No. But also, maybe she's just a hoarder. See all this stuff she's stuck in the bag. Maybe she's not... Maybe we're thinking too deeply in that. It's just more along the lines of that...
She's a hoarder and doesn't want to let go of all her stuff because she never had anything.
Yeah, or you remember inside Ranma 1/2, there was a skater girl that wanted to collect everything she thought was cute?
Mm-hmm. That terrifying person.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe she's got something like that and she just wants to collect stuff.
And Kaede knows who she is.
Yeah. Well, I think Kaede figured out who she is.
Either way, Kaede knows.
Yeah, Kaede. I mean, you really think you're going to pull wool out of Kaede's eyes?
You know what? Fair. And where did all those books come from?
I don't know, but did you see how many people were in the Demon Slayer group now?
Yeah, it's an academy now.
Yeah. I mean, that's where the books came from.
And when did Koaka learn how to read?
Shishomaru taught him.
It comes back to Shishomaru.
I mean, okay, let's look at the people in his life. Moroku, I can't really see Moroku actually teaching someone how to read.
No.
I don't know if Sangha could read.
I don't think so.
Inuyasha probably could. But again, teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Kagome might have been a decent teacher.
If she could get over the anxiety of it all.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But I can't really see. I mean, Ren was getting an education anyway.
Shishomaru wouldn't let that pass.
I mean, he forced her into an apprenticeship underneath Kaede, so yeah.
Being raised by Kaede for like 6 years would definitely cultivate spiritual power.
Yeah. And again, it was I don't remember a whole lot of... I'm going to need to go and rewatch the episodes with Ren. I don't remember, like, her showing a whole lot of, like, spiritual energy, but I remember people talking about her showing spiritual energy, and I remember... I remember not being that surprised when we found out that she went and was training underneath Kaede.
The only time I remember that happening, because I've seen all those episodes, I have studied those episodes. The only time I remember it was when she was with Geninji and she was trying to get the berries for Jokin. And he looked at her and he's like, you remind me of Kagome.
Yeah, that part I do remember. Like,
what if it being just their personalities are very similar? What if it's more than that they have similar
power sets?
Yeah.
No, I think it is canon that Ren did have some, like, baby spiritual abilities, and it would have been trained on as it continued, and that's just anyway. And I think that's what we're seeing happening with that. Like, we have Genji speaking. We've got that she legitimately had trained underneath Kaede.
And she's been brought back twice.
And she's been brought back twice, meaning that she's got some sort of connection to that anyway. Speaking of that, the first real monster that they killed, because the Bone Eater one doesn't really count, that's just to get the story going and to harken back to the original story. So this monster, this Bone Eater,
It's connected.
was the first real one they killed, and they didn't just kill him, they found out that he was a traumatized spirit ghost thing, and they purified him. So I'm a little bit worried about where the story's going. I think that maybe all of our main characters are dead and are kind of haunting the earth, probably causing destruction, and we're gonna have to kill every single one of them and purify them from existence.
That'd be depressing.
Uh-huh.
I don't like it, but it's a solid theory.
I mean, that was because that's the first monster that they kill sets a precedence for everything.
Yeah, the first monster Inuyasha and Kagome killed was the hair lady.
Yeah.
And she set a precedent of them trying to figure out the true nature of a demon.
Yeah.
And running with that.
Yeah.
This one sets a precedent of Towa trying to figure out, why are you haunting these people? Why are you doing this? And Setsuna purifying them.
Yeah.
With Towa's help.
So understanding and purification. So we're just going to be looking at Ghost. And Ren we know for sure is like somewhere in between life and death.
Mm-hmm.
Yashahime was walking that area as well. So maybe what we were seeing is the ghost zone.
Purgatory?
No, Purgatory's something else entirely. I was just making a joke.
Oh, Danny Phantom. That took me a minute. I'm sorry.
This is what happens if you stay up till 7 a.m.
Anyways.
But that would explain why it was not the spirit world and not the real world where they were at.
It was an in-between.
But it was an in-between life and death, which would be where restless spirits were. Also, so remember when we were looking up the relation to owls and Japanese mythology, that they tended to think that owls were the spirits of babies that had died. It's kind of its own kind of haunting. Like the baby spirit kind of would go and live inside an owl, and the owl would stay around the family's place. So that's haunting as well. So I think we're going to be dealing with ghost. Also, since it was said that we were going to be going a lot back and forth between the demon world, between the feudal era, and we're going to be spending most of our time over in the modern era,
ghosts are very relevant for the modern era. Ghosts would
be more relevant to the modern era.
What if this demon that they're supposed to be killing allegedly is also a spirit? What if Yashahime was a spirit too?
I think that all of our that is what I think is going to happen, is that all of our main characters are restless spirits. Except for Shippo, because he's going to be alive and be a thirst trap for all the internet.
You keep saying that, and you're going to be disappointed if it doesn't happen.
Definitely. Definitely.
And why was Moroku walking by himself? I'm going back to my theory that Moroku is possessed by the demon.
I think you're probably right. I think you are probably right that Moroku is possessed.
Because he was by himself, so he was probably on his way to said demon.
Well, he was by himself, but it was from Setsuna's memories. He might not have been by himself. She might just not remember whoever he was with.
I'm going to stick with he was by himself and he was on his way to defeat said demon, and that's when his life went to ash.
I was more concerned with the fact that he was wearing long journey traveling clothes.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure that he was legitimate, that he was actually on his own. Because it's Setsuna's memories, which Setsuna, we already know she has messed up memories.
Mm-hmm.
So there could have been someone else. Like, she seemed kind of surprised that she remembered how he purified something. Or as surprised as Setsuna can be. Setsuna's an interesting character.
Mm.
She doesn't know who she is. We don't know who she is.
She feels like Kikyo, to be honest.
She does feel a little like Kikyo.
She's like a combination of Kikyo and Sango.
I'm sure there's a lesbian fan fiction out there.
Oh, there definitely is.
I don't think that's going to have any conversation worth having whatsoever. Those two would not be able to have a conversation.
Who cares about a conversation? I broke her. Anyways, but that being said, and then we have Towa, our non-binary child
With a sister complex.
with a sister complex.
Just sister complex, period. If you're her sister or she sees you as a sister, she's going to have a complex for you.
Yeah, look at
And
mine.
this is going to be a found family thing. So we can expect Moroha's going to fall into the sister complex as well.
Definitely. Especially when they find out they're legitimately cousins. Because they don't know that yet.
So,
And Miyoka hasn't informed them yet.
Yeah, so basically, it's just going to be Towa, the idiot, and her sister complex. Oh no, Jennifer. She's a harem protagonist that's too idiotic to realize that she's trying to build a harem.
Yep. And she's probably going to collect a bunch of little girls along the way.
Don't like it.
I know you don't, but I'm telling you, she's not going to have a love interest. If anyone out of these three is going to have a love interest, it's going to be
I don't care about her
Setsuna.
having a love interest or not. I think it'll probably happen anyway. I just don't like the sister complex.
Let's be honest, the sister complex was set up from the beginning, though. It makes sense. Most sister complexes don't really make sense. They're like, oh, she's just so cute. But like for Towa, it makes sense. All she knew growing up was her sister. Then they're separated in a forest. She blames herself for this separation in said forest. Her sister doesn't actually know how to take care of herself that well. So she was the main bread provider. She was the one who got all the food. And then they're separated in a fire. She goes to the modern era, has a decent life, and finds out her sister kind of didn't. And so, yeah, now she's overprotective of her. And she's just aggressively apologizing because she doesn't know what happened that day. She thinks it's all her fault. It makes sense for her to have a sister complex. Do you like it? I kind of like it. It's funny. She's like what Azula should have been in book 5. Aggressively apologizing and making sure that she's not doing anything wrong ever. Because she feels so bad.
I thought you were saying Azula should have had a sister complex, and I was momentarily confused.
No.
Because Azula does have a younger sister.
Yeah.
So I was just really confused on why you were thinking that Azula should have a weird sexual desires towards her 5-year-old younger sister. And yeah, it took me a moment to realize what you meant.
If there is... Okay. I'm sorry. But if there is a love relationship that's going to happen, it's going to be for Setsuna. If there's not, the dynamic between Towa and Setsuna, that's what it's going to be. It's just a big old family thing.
Yeah.
Because the way that they were interacting reminded me a lot of Inuyasha and Kagome. Kagome trying to break down his barriers and Inuyasha saying, "Leave me alone, you peasant."
I hope you're not, like, suggesting that is the romance that's going to be in this show.
It's the implied romance, yes.
That's the...
Now, is it going to be romantic in nature? No.
Okay, Inuyasha and Kagome weren't romantic in nature.
No, they weren't. But
Ranma and Akane are not romantic in nature.
no.
And then don't get me started on some of her other stuff.
No, but
you know, you're supposed to read between the lines with all of her character interactions.
and the main relationship focus in this show is going to be Towa and Setsuna. It's gonna be family, and it's gonna be
That's not family, Jennifer. That's incest.
yeah. I'm not talking about the incest though. If you take out the romantic love feelings from the relationship, you get the exact
found family, and it's important, and I love the found family aspects in all of her works like this. But
yeah, and that's the relationship that's going to be prominent.
I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on sister complex.
Sister complex can mean one of two things.
No. No.
She doesn't want to boink her sisters. But
again, it hasn't been brought up in conversation, and we don't know that yet.
She doesn't want to boink her sisters. But she does want to make sure that they're taken care of all the time, ever.
Yes.
And that's where
that's fine. Being an overprotective sister is fine. But that's not really what I'm getting.
And I don't think she wants to boink her sisters. I think she's just extremely overprotective of her sisters and is mad whenever her sisters are mistreated.
Okay, but the moment one of her sisters starts getting a love interest and she starts acting all jealous.
As a tsundere?
What character can I compare it to?
Mm-hmm.
I'll remember the characters' names later. But if she starts acting all jealous and cranky because her sister starts liking other people.
How does that make you feel?
The same way it always makes me feel. As someone with a million sisters, sister complexes bother me. The overprotective sister, well, you've met me.
Uh-huh.
That's a different matter. Sister complexes
are just not good.
No.
And no, they're not. I don't think she wants to boink her sisters.
Hasn't been brought up in conversation.
I don't think she wants to boink her sisters. I think that it gets that feel because she doesn't really know anyone else and doesn't really want to know anyone else.
Which goes back to No Game, No Life.
Okay, they're not actually related.
Neither are May and Towa. Doesn't make it okay.
You know what? Fair. And then No Game, No Life, they're legitimately reincarnated lovers. So, but like, what?
I don't care!
Anyways.
I don't care!
I still love No Game, No Life. I can't lie.
Oh, No Game, No Life is great, but I mean, it's just...
You can't get over it.
It's okay for them to like each other. They're not actually blood related. I don't care. It's okay for them to like each other. They're reincarnated lovers. That's not the problem! The problem arises when you start referring to someone as your sister and your love interest.
Yeah, girl.
I could, if they, didn't refer to each other as siblings, I probably could have gotten over it. I kind of got over the whole Star Wars twincest storyline because at least they weren't referring to each other as siblings and they didn't really know. Should have figured out probably, but they didn't really know. The issue is when you're referring to someone as your sister and your love interest. There's the problem. from rural Arkansas. I can't really talk. I've looked at my family tree. I've seen second cousins that ended up getting. Anyway, the point being,
Miranda, maybe don't admit that.
it was 200 years ago. What am I really confessing to here? That my family didn't travel? Everybody's second cousins got married 200 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
Yours did too.
I don't want to think about it. I really
At
don't.
least I know where it happened in my family.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't recommend trying to make. Let's see. I think my family's family tree goes back like 500 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Stuff weird. The genetics look really weird once you start going past 100 years. Things were just okay.
But yeah.
It's not even the incest part of it that's bothering me. It's the we know this is incestual that bothers me in sister complexes.
At least here, it is not romantic in any way, shape, or form.
We don't know that.
We do know that.
Jennifer.
I'm just saying. It's not romantic. She doesn't want to boink your sister.
Okay, just remember you said that and we'll see where the storyline goes.
Uh-huh.
And if you are right, I am going to be very, very happy. If she's just legitimately an overprotective, caring sister, I am going to be happy with her character.
Mm-hmm.
But if we up this sister complex even 2 notches, I'm gonna fight her. And you.
What'd I do? I gave you hope, didn't I?
You gave me hope. And if this hope turns out to be false,
you're gonna have a problem with it?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess that's it. That's all we can really talk about.
This is just a long range about me talking about my dislike of the sister complex trope.
Uh-huh. All right.
Bye.
Hey.